Hey everyone, thank you for listening to another episode of Spoiler Force Podcast. You can find more episodes on any podcasting platform such as Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and make sure to follow Spoiler Force Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch.
What's up, everybody? This is Ming Chen from AMC's Comic Book Men. Listen, I have a podcast studio. I do multiple podcasts. I listen to Kevin Smith's podcast. Those podcasts don't matter. The only podcast that matters, Spoiler Force Podcast. They record in Michigan, my friends. And if that's not an indication of how awesome this podcast is, my man Ricky Veng, the host, he's Asian. So that's all you need to know. I love the Spoiler Force Podcast. Listen to it, subscribe to it, like it, download every episode, and then do all that all over again because I love Ricky and I love the Spoiler Force Podcast. This is Ming Chen. I love you, Ricky. I love Spoiler Force Podcast. Listen to it, everybody.
This is a FlowGasm Beats production.
So, this is the last episode of 2020 of Spoiler Force Podcast, episode 81. My name is Ricky, and thank you for tuning in. No guests this week. All I did was just wanted to do, let me reword that. All I wanted to do was just talk about what I have been doing this year with my podcast experience, talk about some of the episodes, and just do some recaps and talk about some favorite moments. Talk about some guests, what I plan to do for 2021, even talk about like some of the personal stuff that's been going on in my life. Nothing too personal, but like some changes and some lifestyle choices that I've decided to make or that I've done. So, let me get started here. I don't know why I'm COVID free. I got tested a few weeks ago, but I don't know why I still have like a dry cough. So if I do cough like from time to time in this episode, forgive me. I have water right here. So let's see. So the first thing, let's recap 2020 for Spoiler Force Podcast. I want to say thank you to everyone who has been supportive of this podcast, whether you listened, liked, shared, subscribed, even listened for a little bit. Thank you for just listening to my content and giving this a shot. Excuse me again. This year has been very tough. Hey, what's up, Alex? How you doing? This year has been very tough for a lot of us, and I was not. I didn't think that I'd make it this far with this podcast. 2020 was a year where everyone thought that it was going to be their year. And we all got a reality check because of that. And, I did not expect to get the guests that I got this year, starting off this year with LP. And I want to say thank you to LP if he ever watches this or tunes in. The music you hear in the audio version or even in some of the video versions of the intro, there's the beat, this LP beat, it's by LP Yang, a Hmong producer and Hmong rapper from Hmong Productions. His links are in the description below, so check him out and support his content and his music too. He willingly let me use his music to do like the introduction and outro for the podcast. So thank you so much. And he's from Michigan too, so much love to Michigan artists. And then for, usually every year I try to do like new music or new intros or outros for the podcast. So shout out to FlowGasm. He's another Hmong artist. I believe he's from Minnesota, but shout out to FlowGasm for being able to work with me and collaborate too. So next year's content will be starting off with his music, and I'm very excited to share what he has. And his links are in the description too. That way you can check out his content, his music. If you want to purchase some beats, you can check out his music in the SoundCloud. And whenever I go live on Facebook or on Twitch, that's that his music's what I usually play while the loading screen or the wait screen before I start podcasting. So shout out to FlowGasm. And yeah, like I said, thank you to all of my guests. that's jumped on. Like I said, LP was the first one to be the first 2020 guest. Thank you to William Hung. Thank you to Treasure. Thank you to Surprise. Let me just name off every guest I had here, because I want to give them their credit too, because none of this would have been possible without these guests. I started with just doing reviews and just doing things solo and just talking by myself, and just doing movie reviews, comic book reviews, anime reviews. I still talk about some of the pop culture stuff, but these guests have made my podcast really interesting. Different walks of life, different styles of music, artists, content creators, podcasters, and so let me just start here. We started with episode 35 this year, again with LP, and then William Hung. Thank you to him. Surprise, Treasure, Amber Skies, who was the first cosplayer guest that I've had on this podcast. And then there's also Annie. She's a Hmong singer from Wisconsin. Shout out to my buddy Andrew. I mean, Andrew's always on the podcast, but he's always willing to jump on last minute episodes, or even like if there's an episode that's prepared, Andrew's always down to jump on the podcast whenever. So thank you to Andrew. And see here. Thank you to Jer Lee, another local Michigan artist. Thank you to Van Brooks. He was on the podcast not too long ago. Thank you to Chinchilla, Kenji Her, Martin Wong, Benjamin Nuss, my first international guest from Germany. Crystal from Anime Oils. She's made all my Demon Slayer artwork. Definitely check out her content, Anime Oils. Tony Santiago, one of the very first artists I met at my first convention. Thank you to my buddies Sang, T, and Tua. And my buddies for over 10 years now, since I was in high school. They even jumped on the podcast for one episode. Shout out to Austin Tao of Platinum Podcast. William Chillingwalk Moore of the Only Playable Podcast. He's also a streamer and esports announcer too. Shout out to Gerald and Lauren of the Final Fantasy Union Podcast, the most downloaded Final Fantasy podcast on Apple Podcasts. And they have an amazing YouTube channel, over 200 something thousand subscribers, maybe more. And they just break down and talk about Final Fantasy characters. If you love the Final Fantasy lore, definitely check out the Final Fantasy Union. I hope to have them back on the podcast sometime soon. Shout out to Mo Lowry on Justice. Mo Lowry is a stand-up comedian. He also loves anime, and I believe he's having a stand-up, I guess, special or an event tonight on Facebook too. I think it's only like $5 to join in. Definitely check out Mo Lowry. His journey as a content creator was something that was really special, because he went viral, and then he had to fight to get his account back from getting hacked, and then now he's going viral again and doing stand-up. So shout out to him. And he even wrote his first comic book, which I bought, and he signed it too. Shout out to Ming Chen, the video that I used for my introduction, Ming Chen of Comic Book Men, one of my first big guests there, and he's also been, we've been in talks too. Hopefully I can try to get him back on the podcast. And he even did a shout out for Andrew's birthday. Shout out to Puzzle Minds Podcast, one of the first podcast collaborations that I did that was with, I guess you could say that was with a non-Hmong person. So they were like the first, I guess, first different podcasting group that I was with. Not to say that it's a bad, there's nothing wrong with that, but I try to work with Hmong podcasters or Hmong artists, but these guys are willing to collaborate. And the episode we talked about was like a movie, and then I even was featured on their podcast too. So check out Puzzle Minds Podcast. My buddy Chuck Bean, I need to redeem that episode, because Chuck Bean, it was such a great episode to have Chuck on the podcast too. And shout out to Liberty Comics. If you haven't seen that post of Liberty Comics, I recently had to put my pull list on hold, and I haven't, I've been going to the same comic book store in Roseville, Michigan. Again, Liberty Comics, check them out. And I've been going there for so long, for almost 5 years, maybe a little bit more. And yesterday I had to tell the guys, Gail, the owner Gail, that I couldn't, not so much afford, but I just couldn't make time to get the books anymore. And I didn't want him to have a stack of books waiting for me to go pick up. So I told him I had to put the books on hold, and he understood my situation. And shout out to those guys, Gail, Howard, Chuck. for just giving me the best 5 years of my life, just letting me go to the store, even just stand around, walk around, talk to people. They even let me, they even let me advertise my podcast there. They have my cards there. Gail hooked me up with tons of deals over these past years, and he's always looking out for my content. And same thing with Chuck and Howard. They're always pulling stuff for me, even when I don't ask them to. And they let me go in there and pull my own pull list too. So, that shop has been a big part of my life. So shout out to Liberty Comics. Check them out. And Chuck, if you ever watch this or listen to this episode, please jump back on the podcast sometime soon. I would love to redeem your episode and have you back on so that your mic will sound good. It was my fault that the episode that you were on this year, they weren't able to hear you. But now that I'm doing video podcasts and stuff now, hopefully the guests can hear your amazing experience and your stories too. So thank you again, Chuck. And thank you to my cousin Hmong. He's actually, the one that's been helping me with my software and hardware. He helped me pick out my laptop. He gave me programs to help edit and help find different things to just use and to find mics and all of that stuff too, and webcam. So he's helped me out a lot behind the scenes along with Andrew. And he's also a big anime fan too. So he's helped me watch new anime, find new anime, and we discuss all of that stuff on some episodes too. Shout out to Taryn Masterson of Tarot with Taryn's. She was the first tarot card reader I've ever had, and it was a really different episode, and she explained things really clearly, and I really hope to collaborate with her again. I know that she did reach out to me earlier this year, but I was just busy, so hopefully we can work together again. And then shout out to Blongxia Vang, one of the she is a growing content creator in the Hmong community. She sells clothes and makeup, I believe makeup too, but she's also a singer and a model and an actress, so she has a lot of things going for her. But I think right now she was still going to school too the last time I spoke to her. But shout out to her for even just jumping on the podcast. I was not expecting to get her on the podcast because I know she's busy, but that was a great episode. So if you have not checked her out, definitely do. And again, thank you to more guests here. Rachda Lin, my first Singaporean guest. She does amazing artwork. I even I recently just paid her to do 2 commissions for me for Genshin Impact. I don't know when she'll be done with it, but hopefully I get it soon. And I honestly, I love her art style. If I was to ever write a manga or something like that, I'd probably pick her to do my art. Shout out to Kaiser Contreras, one of the newer guests that I've had. He works with sculpting and cryopreservation. I still have trouble saying that word, but then his episode was fun because we talked about his trip to Japan, and that was something that was really cool to hear. I wish I studied more about cryopreservation, but hopefully the next time I have him back on, we can talk more about his skill set instead of just his experience in Japan or his just his trips in general. Shout out to Wayne Alheño, one of the first competitive food eaters that I've had on the podcast. Wayne was super cool to work with. Very nice guy. We follow each other on Instagram too, and hopefully I can try to work with him again. And he works hard on his content too. I love watching his videos, especially with him and Weston, his dog. So definitely check out Wayne Alheño. And I'm gonna try to get more competitive food eaters too. I really want to try to get Randy Santel, but that's gonna be a tough one. If not, then maybe I want to try to get Raina Huang too. But hopefully they even look at my emails. But Wayne, if you ever listen to this, definitely give them a nudge for me. Shout out to Naya Cosplays. Naya was my first Puerto Rican guest that I've had on the podcast. She's a small-time cosplayer. I think she was going to school or she is going to go to school, so she wasn't really cosplaying at the time. Plus, during quarantine, everything was shut down. But we got to talk about her experience and how she got started cosplaying in Puerto Rico and what cons she went to, and just talked about anime and stuff like that. So that was a really fun episode too. And she definitely was really supportive of the podcast too. And she was when she shared our episode, a lot of other local cosplayers in her community shared it too. So thank you for that. And shout out to the California Conventions blog. These guys, I think their episode with me was probably the longest episode I've had. They they were just so fun to talk with, man. They had so much stories, and shout out to Matt, Nate, Dalton. Oh, I'm missing someone. I can't think of his name. I'm so sorry. I'm drawing a blank of the last guy's name. Nate. I know Nate, Dalton, Matt, and I'm forgetting the fourth person that was on the podcast. He was the one that was running a little bit late. Sorry about that. Damn, it's really bugging me now. Let me check his name. I don't want to exclude him. So give me a few seconds here. I'm looking on my phone. I want to make sure I have the right name when I bring this blog team up, because they're from California, and they cover conventions on the West Coast and even some on the East Coast here. It just sucks that with conventions closing down, they weren't able to continue their content. But hopefully in 2021 they get to do more, and we're actually in the talks right now for having them on back on the podcast sometime in February. So let me just look here. Let me just find the name here. The video is still loading here. Ryan, yes. So again, thank you to Ryan, Dalton, Nate, and Matt of the California Conventions blog. You guys were great. I love having you guys on the podcast, and I can't wait to hear more stories that you guys have to tell. We barely scratched the surface when we were podcasting, and hopefully we can go longer than 2 hours. I think it was almost 2.5 hours when I had them on the podcast. And I have an unedited version of it too, and it's even longer than that. So if you're interested, maybe if I can try to start a Patreon or something, and if you're interested in supporting the podcast that way, I can put that up on that too. And that's something I'll be talking about later on in this final episode of Spoiler Force of 2020. Let me continue this list here. Shout out to Su Chan Yang, fitness coach, and also he helps out the Hmong community too, and works at he did work at a Hmong-owned gym. And then after we podcast, he went on this crazy road trip and just lived his life like how he wanted to. He took his dog. They fixed up, I believe, what was his van, and they just drove out west. And I think he went all the way to California. And I just followed his Instagram and his Facebook, and he had tons of photos of his trip, where he I guess hiked, the parks he went to, all the stops he was at, all the ramen he ate. And I was pretty jealous because he went to so many different ramen shops, and I love authentic ramen. So I can't wait to have him back on the podcast, and hopefully I can get to be on his podcast sometime soon, because he does have his own podcast. Shout out to Josh Tauby of Blue Views Cinema. Thank you for jumping back on my podcast. Josh is a local Michigan film editor, actor, voice actor, theater actor, singer, writer, everything. And this guy has been such a great help since the beginning of Spoiler First podcast. The episode with him, we talked about The Office and why we love The Office. We just talked about moments of, just some of our favorite moments, really. And definitely check out that episode. Again, thank you to Josh. Thank you to Dust Bunny, another cosplayer that I'm glad I got to work with. She's from California. She's a video editor. And I met her way back in 2015. The same year I met Amber Sky's cosplay. And to get cosplayers like them who have an established fan base already, and to just willingly jump on the podcast was so great. And I can't wait to have her back on the podcast soon. Shout out to Dave Senpai, local Michigan rapper, musician, writer. We talked about Ex Machina. He really loved the whole sci-fi themed and conspiracy stuff. So that was really cool to talk to someone like that, just to hear another side of him besides just his music. Thank you to Whitney Yang, actress, Hmong actress, and she was featured in the film Gran Torino. She was one of the main parts. She played Sue, and she was also in Batman vs Superman. We got to talk about how she got to work in that movie with WB and Zack Snyder. I don't think she got to meet Zack Snyder, but her story of how she got that role was pretty funny. Let me continue on here. Thank you to DC Reacts, man. That episode of DC Reacts, I could have just kept talking, but man, that was recording that episode. I don't know if I said it on the podcast, but recording that episode of DC Reacts was I mean, it was fun, but it was late because we were recording in his time. He lives in California, so he's 3 hours behind us in the East Coast here. So I was up at 1 a.m. and waiting for him to come home and to record. And he came home straight from work just to jump on the podcast. And as DC is so cool to work with, he's down for anything, and is very direct with his opinions, and he's very honest, which is why I loved working with him. And his content continues to grow, and I can't wait to see what he has in store. I definitely want him back on the podcast too, and definitely check him out. He has tons of interviews with Hmong rappers and artists. He's expanding his content to different communities now, so hopefully he can continue to grow and help him reach to 10,000, which was actually his goal. So help him get to 10,000 subscribers. Thank you to James Lee. He's another artist from Michigan. He's doing comedy sketches or skits, and right now he's trying to run his own business too. So, hopefully everything goes well for you, James. And thank you for jumping on the podcast. Shout out to Jensen Silvio. Jensen was one of the first guests that I had last year when I was starting for Spoiler Force, and I was a big fan of his when he was playing music, and he still is, but he is now just doing guitar lessons through like Zoom calls and stuff like that. We talked about his transition journey, how he's been recovering, or how he's been just reacting to the medication, and just what his thoughts were on certain topics. And I'm glad I was able to talk to Jensen about his transitional journey. And just again, when you do listen to that episode, be warned, because it's not too crazy, but some people maybe. I don't want people to get offended through what I say in that episode, because some of the questions I was able to ask him because we're pretty acquainted, and he was comfortable with answering those questions. So I don't want people to take that the wrong way. But thank you to Jensen. Make sure you guys support his content too, and check out his video series, My Transgender Journey. So definitely check out his content. And then the last new guest here, Julian Hester of the What's in My Head podcast. Julian, man, that was such a fun episode. I released that on Monday this week, and it's the first collaboration episode that I did that we split the episode in two parts. So part 1 is on my YouTube channel, and part 2 is on his. If you go to the Spoiler Force podcast page, it is actually the pinned post. So definitely check out his episode with me. And we talked about My Hero Academia, his opportunities to work with Rob Paulson and Billy West, and how he started his podcast and stuff like that. And shout out to him too for even putting me on his podcasting network group. They're called the what were they called? The Epic Shells Network Podcasting Group. And that I actually just recently joined their team or their network group, where we just support each other's content and cross collaborate, share each other's podcasts with each other, and do audio drops for each other. And yeah, this community that I'm going to be in, I can't wait to start collaborating with these other podcasters, and just to start working with them, because they do other pop culture themed episodes or podcasts, and they're really big Ninja Turtle fans, which is really cool. But it just kind of sucks for me because I'm not a big Ninja Turtles fan. But the fact that they still let me be in that group is really cool. So I really appreciate that. So shout out to that group. Let me just name off the shows that are in the Epic Shells Network podcast group here. So the podcast in there is the Epic Tales podcast, Epic Tales from the Sewer, What's in My Head podcast, Creator Con Q&A, Comic Watchers, Turtle Tracks, and then myself, Spoiler Force podcast. So thank you for letting me join the group there. Hola, como te llama? Shout out to Lemon Don, man. Lemon Don is my cousin. He was on the podcast too last year. He's actually going to be featured on Spoiler Force again in about 2.5 weeks or so. I guess I can just drop a preview of this. The episode that we have is going to be called the Spoiler Force Famcast, and I have 3 of my cousins, including him, joining me in that episode. We'll be talking about anime and Genshin Impact and stuff like that, but I don't want to break down too much of it because I want to keep that as a surprise. Just me and my cousins geeking out And that way you get to see a more personal side of myself as well, just to see my family and stuff like that and how we react with each other. I can't wait to do that episode because it's going to be fun. I don't know what to expect. There's going to be tons of trolling and tons of tangents, and I can't wait for that. So, going through this past 15 minutes here, just thanking all my guests, I had to just shout them out again. And these opportunities, I was told this year that I wasn't going to be able to get guests this year. Someone told me, like, how do you know you're going to book guests every week for your podcast in a year? And from episode 35 till now, of which is episode 81, I've booked guests for the majority of this year. I only had like maybe 3 or 4 episodes max where it's just by myself. And the rest of this year, I've had guests, almost weekly, new guests, returning guests, and that's such a blessing to me. And I really enjoyed seeing these people put in effort and just having fun on my podcast, and it's helped me grow as a host too, and definitely be more creative with my questions, and definitely come out of my shell when it comes to just talking about topics here. We're going to talk about who is the ultimate waifu in anime/video games. I'm pretty sure we are, Lemon Dome. I'll put that in on the question or the topics list later on. But thank you for putting that in there. Shout outs to all the people. Yes, Alex. Shout outs to all the people. And shout out to Alex too, man. Not a lot of the as I'd really like more engagement with my listeners, and Alex has been one of the very few listeners that's jumped on the live stream or even just listened to the audio and given feedback and stuff like that. And he recently won first place in the Spoiler Force podcast giveaway contest, so that was really cool. He deserves that. Thank you for supporting the podcast. He's even donated to Spoiler Force podcast too when I haven't asked, and well, I did ask, but he willingly donated to Spoiler Force podcast more than once, and that's been really encouraging to me too. So thank you, Alex, for your fandom as well. And you've been a fan from day one, so thank you for that. And I wish nothing but the best of you. I wish nothing but the best for you. I'm sorry, I'm like mumbling all of my words here. I'm just so excited to just talk about what's to come here. So, this year, again, like I've said, I was not ready to be able to get all these guests for the podcast. And it's been an incredible year, as crazy as this year has been, with a lot of the deaths of celebrities and people, and just like the chaos with everything, from political rights to killing cops and stuff like that, and all the voting issues and all that stuff like that. I don't want to get into all that because I don't pay attention to that, but that's in the quarantine and all that crap. It's made this year a little bit more tougher, and especially with COVID still around and people getting sick. I wasn't sure if the podcast was gonna pull through this year, and I just kept being steady with the podcast. And I know that numbers and stats and stuff was a part of the reason why I was feeling down sometimes, because I would look at my numbers and I would want to try to stay on top of things or just try to reach certain goals, and if I didn't get it, then I would flip out. But now I've come to terms with that, and I just want to thank everyone for the support. And doing this podcast has been more of a passion project versus a profit project. And shout out to Julian Hester for saying that. This podcast has been helping me so much mentally to just be myself and to just express myself fully. That was one of the goals that I really wanted to just share with my audience, to fully express myself through this artwork and through creativity with the questions and talking to my guests, being able to geek out and nerd out without anyone judging me in my face. I mean, there's probably people that say some rude things too, but on this platform, I get to really just be myself. And that's something that I really love to do. And to be able to just speak with all these amazing guests again and to just talk about all these different topics has been a life changer for me. And this podcast experience has been so great, despite how crazy this year has been. And I'm just glad that I'm still able to do this. There was times where I had to learn how to do things on my own. I edit on my own. I crop clips and I record things on my own. I had to learn all the equipment on my own. I've had friends backstab me. I had people that I thought I was cool with try to steal my work and try to copy and paste the things that I was doing. And they, it just a lot. You just got. I got to learn who was real and who wasn't this year just through this podcast and all by ourselves. Did I say that all by ourselves? All by myself, really? Oh, shit. But yeah, it's just to learn all this just by myself, just by myself. And just to learn like who was real and who wasn't this year, just to see who were the real supporters and sing it for all of us. Yeah, that's Lemon Dome commenting for those who are listening on the for audio later. And yeah, man, it's just that was such a hard reality check for me, man. When you think that there's people that will support you and they don't, and that was really that was a big pill for me to swallow, to see when I would try to reach out to a lot of people in my community or at home or just trying to get supporters where because there's tons of people who will tell you that I'll support you, or you're doing such a great job, but then they don't listen to an ounce, or they don't even listen to like a second of your content, and it was really discouraging at times. And I had to come to terms with just accepting that the people that you reach out to will never listen to your content. And then again, with friends being close to you and trying to, again, steal content or try to copy or craft and just like try to screw you over, I had to really just accept that deep down and just learn that, not, I guess, this isn't for everyone, and making content like this, it's tough. It's a lot tougher than it looks. There are nights where I stay up so late and I'm up for over 18 I think the longest I stayed up was almost 30 plus hours, just editing, cropping and uploading. And it's insane to when I think about it, how much work I put into this podcast, all the hours and the weekends I've wasted just sitting in my kitchen editing. I literally sit in my kitchen and edit, because if I do it in my room, I'm going to fall asleep. So I sit in my kitchen all night just editing on Fridays and Saturdays and recording and booking guests and coming up with questions and content. And, again, I do this by myself. So it's so much more tough when you don't have a team. But to know that there are supporters out there has been really helpful. So again, with this experience, man, I'm so glad that I was able to pull through this year, despite of all the personal issues at home or the just seeing, making new friends and seeing fake friends and stuff like that. All right, thanks for dropping in, Lemon Dome. Make sure you guys support Lemon Dome on stream. Not stream, on Twitch. I'm sorry, where he live streams on Twitch where he plays games like Apex and Genshin Impact. He's my cousin. Again, he's been on the podcast. He was actually my very first guest. So if you go to episode 6, he talks about his experience with meeting Clint Eastwood and acting in the film Gran Torino. So definitely check out Lemon Dome and support his content. If you're still watching Lemon Dome, drop your links. That way they can see too, or the audience can see. So yeah, and with this, with this year, I'm so glad to just make it out towards the end here, and I'm so excited for 2021. I'm working on new introductions, new outros, new ads. I'm an affiliate for Buzzsprout now. So if you go to my Buzzsprout referral link, you get a $20 Amazon gift card, and you also help support the podcast too, and that'll help you if you really want to start your own podcast, definitely go to that referral code. And again, thank you to the Epic Shells Network podcast, or the Epic Shells Podcast Network, for letting me join your guys' group. Being able to cross collaborate with other podcasters has been great, and starting this new journey with them is going to be really fun. I was really hesitant at first, of joining groups and stuff, and there's tons of podcast groups on Facebook and stuff like that, but it's always like sub for sub or play for play, and people like, if you're a podcaster, don't fall for that shit, because people will say play for play, it's sub for sub, or rate for rate and stuff like that. I've fallen for that. People don't really listen to your content. There's just too much. And I guess to really just work with other podcasters, you genuinely just have to like their content. If you don't like their content, you don't have to work with them or rate their content and stuff like that. So that's just coming from me. That's why I stopped doing all that sub for sub stuff, because you would sub to their content, do a screenshot, send it to them, and they do it back to you. But then within like a few days, they unsubscribe to you. And I've had so many like ups and downs in my algorithm and my data, again, for like the stats and stuff for people who listen to my audio, and it ruined my podcast. So I stopped doing that whole sub for sub stuff. And I really just want to tell you guys, if you guys want to be podcasters, work with those who want to work with you, man. That's been my mantra this year, or at least for the second half of this year. Originally, it was go beyond plus ultra, but then working with those who want to work with you has been something that's helped me to just look for people or find guests that want to just collaborate and share content and create new things with. And that's been something that has helped my podcast, and to be able to build a network with other people and other podcasters too. Now, I'm going to talk about some of my favorite guests. Not to I guess downplay any of my guests, because I loved all my guests, but there has been just certain guests on my podcast that I really enjoyed having on. And again, one of the first ones was LP, and having him on my podcast was so dope. We talked about his music career. It was a really great first episode for this year, and to be able to work with someone who's in the Hmong hip hop community like that, it was really cool. I really wish I did like a video format of it, but at the time I was only doing audio. But I got to actually go to his studio and record the episode there with him, and just that experience alone right there was so fun, because I got to see how he worked. I got to see how he made his music. I got to see how his just his area to just create and build, and to see who he got to collaborate with and how he started from the ground up, seeing him start music from just handing out flyers and physical CDs and stuff like that, and just traveling without using social media and stuff like that. So that was a really great episode. Another great episode another one of my favorite guests that I had was Amber Skies. She was so fun to talk to. She talked about her experience going on the red carpet during the Endgame premiere. She met Brie Larson, Chris Pratt. I forgot who else she met. The lady who played Nebula. I forgot her name already, but she met her twice. And just hearing her experience going from cosplay to having opportunities with Marvel, and then now she's doing Twitch streaming, which I do follow. I've been subscribed to her Twitch channel for almost a year now, so I really like her content, and she was a really fun guest to talk to. And then like another good guest that I had, like another good favorite guest I had, was the Final Fantasy Union. They were so awesome to talk to. My first UK guest, and guest from England, and I was already geeking out, because they have such a huge fan base of just for Final Fantasy, and I love Final Fantasy. I love the franchise for Final Fantasy, and we got to talk about Final Fantasy X, the remake, and just, or Final Fantasy VII, the remake, and we just talked about our favorite characters and stuff like that, and hearing Daryl and Lauren's breakdown of characters and how they just love the franchise, man. Like, just to talk to people who know that kind of lore and to really know these characters, it really made me realize, like, I don't know that kind of stuff as much as I thought I did, and a lot of the guests that I've had really showed me up when it came to talking about things like that. And I really have to step up my game to when I do talk to these guests. Like, another favorite one was Mo Lowry. Talking to him about anime and comic books and comedy, man. And I loved hearing his story, how he came up from. He came up as an only child, doing things on his own and helping his community out, and then doing comedy, and then just seeing him struggle as a content creator, he had his content like hacked, and he had to fight for that and come back, and now he's writing his own comic book series, and he's doing nothing but great things, man. And he was such a great guest to have, and I really hope that he does well with his comedy. Another favorite guest that I had on the podcast here was probably Julian Hester, one of the most recent guests. He was someone that I got to really nerd out with, and honestly, when I recorded that episode, it didn't even feel like an episode that I recorded, or it didn't even feel like a recording. It felt like we were just friends who were just talking, like at a bar or something, like just meeting a new friend. It didn't even feel like a podcast recording, and that's why I really appreciated that episode, because he broke down characters that I never thought that you could break down like that. And he was just, the way how he articulated his words to certain, like when we talked about My Hero, like there's a clip that I have where he talks about Bakugo, and he used this Kobe Bryant analogy, and that's still something that I really enjoyed hearing. And I never thought about even breaking down characters like that. So he was an awesome guest to have. But that's again, I'm not downplaying any of my guests here. I loved having all my guests on the podcast, but just I try to find highlights of this year of the episodes and moments and stuff like that. And when you look at all the titles that I have, they're either like the titles of the guest's podcast or brand, or even just quotes from what they've said. And there was one guest I forgot to mention, was Coolio of Fax News. I've had Chinchilla on, and Chinchilla is a part of Fax News too. I forgot to mention Coolio, so shout out to Coolio for the collaboration. Let me take a look at some of these comments here. Roman says, "Hi, hello Roman. Hope you're doing well." Alex says, "I enjoy the LP episode. Cool fact. That's how I discovered your podcast. I can't remember who shared the post, but I saw a pic of you in LP. So yeah, the LP actually took that picture of me and him in the studio. That was right after we got done recording. Don't forget about Keenang Vang. Keenang Vang actually was a guest for 2019. The guest right now, the guest I'm talking about is for 2020. But yes, Keenang was a great guest that I had too. He was one of the very first Hmong artists that I had on the podcast. And hopefully I get to work with him again too. I know he's been doing some collaborations with guests, not guests, but like artists from UK too, and on the West Coast, and just producing for like other Hmong rappers too. And I keep forgetting that. Now that I'm on the topic of Keenang, I keep forgetting that he's a producer, because he's such a good singer too. So if you don't know who Keenang Vang is, definitely check out his music. He's really, really talented when it comes to just producing, writing, and singing. I hope he does release more music videos when it comes to his singing talent. Again, I keep forgetting that he's a producer. But yeah, let's move on here. On the topic of favorite things, I want to talk about some of the favorite animes or shows and comic books that I try to at least read or watch this year. I know there's tons of pop culture content, and I get excuse me. I guess I can start with anime. One of the anime shows that I really enjoyed watching, even reading, that I think this will count for anime and manga, but one that I really enjoyed was Rent a Girlfriend. And if you don't know what Rent a Girlfriend is, it's such an odd show just because of the title. If you don't know, how I discovered this series. I actually was going through a one of those, what are they called? I guess like one of those books at the comic book store where you can order more books or novels, and I saw the title at Liberty Comics, and I put that in my pull list for them to order for me. And then I got to read the first volume before the anime dropped, and I didn't even know that they were working on an anime for that series. So I read the first volume, and then like a few weeks after that, the anime dropped. And then I also learned that the main voice actress who plays Chizuru Mitsuhara, or Chizuru Mitsuhara, she's the same voice actress for Aqua in the anime Konosuba, and I love Konosuba so much. So I had to just watch the anime, and by the time I knew it, I was hooked. I was actually waiting for that series weekly more than other animes that I wanted to watch, like God of High School and Ray Zero and stuff like that. Rent-A-Girlfriend has been a really comedic show for me, and it was just different from all like the shonen that I keep watching or all the isekai stuff that I watched, and it was just more down to earth in a way. The whole renting service is still pretty weird to me, but I really enjoyed the story, and I'm actually reading the manga now too. I'm actually up to the part where season 1 ends, and I don't know when season 2 will drop, but I'm going to continue to read the manga and try to catch up, because my cousin Mong Her, he is definitely caught up with the manga, so I gotta catch up with this so we can do a review of the recent chapters. Let's see. I hope you had a good Christmas. Yeah, I did, Roman. Thank you for commenting that. He also says One Punch Man is the anime that I watch. One Punch Man is a great anime. I recommend that you read the manga, or at least read the webtoon. The manga itself, it releases at such different times, or at least when I try to read it, so I haven't been really caught up with it. But I do enjoy that series. Season 2 honestly wasn't that great because I didn't like how they switched studios. But the story itself is awesome, and I hope that they get to the part where you get to see more of the S-class heroes fight the villains or the Monster Society in One Punch Man. And hello, Ricky. Hello to this guest here. That's actually my mom. She watches the live stream from time to time too. So yeah, Rent-A-Girlfriend has been one of my favorite animes and manga of this year. And a close second would probably be Ray Zero, because of the whole twisted story and what's been revealed. I'm actually not going to go too much into detail, because first I'm saving that for another episode. But season 2 is actually going to be dropping in a few weeks or so, and The Promised Neverland is also dropping next week too. So I'm very excited for season 2 of The Promised Neverland. I've been trying to make time to read the not the light novel, or I guess you could say the light novel for the manga for The Promised Neverland. I'm sorry, I was thinking of Ray Zero, but the Promised Neverland manga, I know they finished that, and I've been trying to make time to read it, because I started reading the manga during like the first half of the anime, because I couldn't wait anymore. And then now that the anime caught up so quickly, I'm behind on the manga. And then I think I ran into 1 or 2 spoilers, but I don't want to confirm that because I'm still trying to read the series. Roman says my friend likes Attack on Titan. Attack on Titan is an amazing series, Roman. I think it's still ongoing. I don't know if they're taking a break right now for the anime, but excuse me, my guys had to get a drink of water there. But Attack on Titan is great. The manga is almost done. I'm pretty sad for that. I'm not ready for that to end next year, so I'm not even going to talk about Attack on Titan because it's going to make me sad. But definitely watch the anime if you haven't. I'm very excited because where they're at in the anime, it's going to be a huge fight coming up next. I can tell you that. Alex says he's fallen out of anime. It's all right. I did too. I didn't get back into anime till like last summer, so I'm pretty behind on a lot of stuff too. Roman says, "Do you know a game called Doki Doki? It's an anime horror game." Yes, Roman, I do that. I do know that game, Doki Doki. I played that earlier this year and got caught off guard. I did not know how messed up it was. That kind of freaked me out a little bit. I don't even know. Should you be playing that game? That game's kind of messed up. I don't know if kids should be playing that game because even when I played it, I got kind of spooked out. Um, for the listeners who don't know, Doki Doki is a interactive anime game. So you got to like make choices between the four main female leads, and depending on your choices, it just has like crazy endings, and then you have to go back in the game and replay your choices again and have save points and all that stuff. It's pretty crazy. There's tons of endings to it. It's pretty twisted. I didn't have time to get all the endings, so I just watched people play it, and I really like this fan theory that they had that it's a connection to another game that's supposed to come out sometime soon. But excuse me, but excuse me, my God. But yeah, I wasn't too into. I mean, I like the game, but I wasn't like crazy about it. And some of my favorite shows this year, you know, I know like with the fall, winter, there was tons of shows dropping, you know, like The Mandalorian, which honestly, I'll be honest with for anyone who's listening, I have not watched all of The Mandalorian. I know what happens though. I just couldn't get into it, man. After that season 1, episode 1, they revealed Boba Fett. I was just like, you know, they're adding, excuse me, they're adding movie characters to the series, and now with season 2, with how season 2 ended, I don't know. I don't think Mando is the main character anymore, because Grogu or the child, he's a Luke Skywalker now. So I was just like, I'm probably not gonna watch it. But people said it was a pretty sad ending though, because Grogu like touched the face. Am I butchering that name, Grogu? Like, is that what his name is in the Mandalorian, the child? He touched Mando's face, and apparently that was like a really sensitive scene. Pedro Pascal does a pretty good job in that show, but I didn't like him in Wonder Woman 80. I didn't like him in Wonder Woman 84. So, what's another good show that I watched this year? Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai was one that I really liked this year. I mean, it didn't drop this year, but it dropped on Netflix this year. So I got to watch seasons 1 and 2, binged it all the way through. Absolutely loved it. In a few days they're going to drop on Netflix for season 3, so I'm super excited. Yeah, that's what it was this weekend. I got to make time this weekend to watch season 3 of Cobra Kai, and hopefully I can try to make time to watch all of it. But yes, that's another TV show that I really enjoyed. I know there's there's tons of stuff that's came out. You know, if there's shows or movies that you guys like, drop them in the comments below so I can see what you guys watched and what you guys liked, because I've been so caught up with different things in the podcast too, so I haven't really made time to watch all the stuff that I really wanted to watch this year. Movies that I really enjoyed. I mean, I didn't like most people. I didn't have time to, or we didn't have the opportunity to go to theaters this year. So I think that one of the last movies I got to watch before COVID happened was My Hero Academia, Heroes Rising, and it was like before March. And I think that was the last movie I watched in theaters, and that movie really struck a chord with me. If you listen to that episode of Van Brooks on the three-peat episode, man, I loved that movie so much. I watched it 3 times, twice in dub, or I try to watch it twice in sub and once in dub, because usually the dub drops first. So I watched the dub, the first opening, and then I watched it subbed, and then I was going to take my niece and nephew to go with me to watch it sub, but then I fell asleep, and then I had to make it to, I had to switch my time to make it to the dubbed showing. Excuse me. So yeah, I watched it 3 times. I absolutely loved the movie. Even the dub was okay. It was tolerable. But yeah, My Hero Academia, Heroes Rising was by far one of my favorite movies of this year. And then Tenet, I watched Tenet in theaters when they let theaters open back up in Michigan for a little bit. I don't know if they're open back up. I'm not even taking the risk, because after getting hit with COVID earlier this month, I don't even want to go out no more. But I watched Tenet once. I'm probably going to buy it on Blu-ray just so I can rewatch it and catch details I missed. But Tenet was really confusing. If you guys haven't watched Tenet yet, definitely take your time to watch it, because Christopher Nolan really likes that complex time and physics kind of shit. So I I was not. I guess I wasn't ready to comprehend the movie. But what's his name? Robert Pattinson did a pretty good job, and plus the DC fandom this year. The Batman trailer was one of my favorite trailers this year. I think Robert Pattinson's going to kill it as Batman. People keep giving him shit because of Twilight, but his other movies, he's a pretty good actor. Let me take a look at some of these comments here. I already read this comment. Roman says, "Do I like Stranger Things?" Yes, I do. I wasn't a big fan of the last season though. I didn't like what happened to Hopper, but the show is okay. Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of the last season. They're dropping a new season for next year. Yeah, I mean, Stranger Things is one of the few reasons why I still keep Netflix. And what sucks is The Office is leaving. And shit, tomorrow is the last day to watch The Office. So I'm recording this on the 30th. So tomorrow is the last day to watch The Office. Damn, I was planning to watch anime all day tomorrow, but I might have to just binge The Office one more time. You know, if you guys like The Office, let me know. Who's your favorite Office character? Because I love Michael Scott. Dwight is one of my favorites. Jim, Ryan, Fire Guy, Kevin. Everyone in The Office was my favorite. But who is your favorite characters in The Office? Because once that show goes to NBC's streaming service, I don't know if Netflix will take a hit or not. But are people really gonna go to NBC's streaming service just for Netflix? I know Amazon's selling it for like $60 on DVD, and then there's also a Blu-ray set for like double the price. But I don't know. I might just buy the DVD set. Roman says Hopper was kidnapped by the Russians. Yep, I know that. I saw the trailer. Yep, yeah. I mean, I just don't like the fact that like they. I just don't like the fact that they did that to Hopper in general, because I really wish Hopper just stayed. Yeah, I couldn't stand the girl that was singing with Justin in Stranger Things. I thought that was such a crap scene. Hey Kelly, thanks for joining the stream. She says Roman and I watched The Office. Alex says I never watched The Office. You never watched The Office, bro? Alex, you need to watch The Office, man. The Office is one of the greatest shows ever. If you have Netflix, try to binge as much as you can. Season 1's a tough watch, but season 2, the basketball episode is one of my favorites. So definitely watch that. It's such a funny show, dude. Make time to watch that before they switch over to NBC streaming service. Roman says he likes Dwight. Identity theft is not a joke, Jim. Yes, identity theft is no joke. Bears, Beats, and Battlestar Galactica. I actually have those Funko Pops. I have a Dwight Funko Pop. I have a Prison Mike Funko Pop. A Date Mike Funko Pop. Jim dressed as Dwight Funko Pop, and then I have when I was cleaning out my room, and I actually have a Dwight Funko Pop with the CPR dummies mask on. The episode where they did the CPR scene and Dwight cut the face off the dummy. There's actually a Funko Pop of that, and I forgot that I bought that. It's still bubble wrapped and everything in my room. So that was a pretty cool collectible that I had. But yes, The Office is one of the greatest shows ever. So if you have not watched The Office, please make time to watch it. It's hilarious. The comedy is, if you're not used to that kind of comedy, like a mockumentary or documentary type of show, it is kind of tough to watch if you don't get that kind of humor. But it's funny because there's no laugh track. You know, on the episode of Josh Tauby this year that I have. ASMR. You guys can hear it. I'm popping a Pepsi, so yeah, I don't know if that sounds any different, but yeah, that's pretty loud. I didn't think it sounded like that on my mic. I don't like sipping or eating in front of my microphone, but people like that ASMR stuff. I don't know why. I never found. I never found that pleasing as content, but some people make money off of that. Do you want to start your own podcast? Then sign up with Buzzsprout. Buzzsprout has helped hundreds of thousands of users to begin their podcasting journey. With easy-to-use tools, you can effectively get your podcast onto many platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and more. You can view stats, create audio clips, and even have your own podcasting website. Buzzsprout also offers ideas, tips, tricks, and tutorials to help you improve your podcast. Follow the link below, and once you sign up, you'll get a $20 Amazon gift card. This will let Buzzsprout know that I sent you and also support Spoiler Force Podcast. Happy podcasting. If you're into anime, manga, or anything that's from Japan, Otaku Detroit is the place for you. Located at 513 West, 11 Mile Road in Madison Heights, Michigan, you can find a variety of manga books, anime figures, collectibles, posters, snacks, and even authentic items from Japan. Stop on by to see store owner Matt and let him know Spoiler Force sent you. Let's see. How many Funko Pops do I have? I have a lot, dude. Alex, I have a lot. There's some collectors though that have way more than I do. A lot of the, I guess, people who don't collect Funko Pops, they think that I have a lot because right now I have over maybe close to 200 Pops. Some that are still pre-ordered that have not made it yet in the mail. And I also buy figurines too, like anime figures and stuff like that. But I have quite a lot. I have like 11 boxes of like figurines and Funko Pops boxed up in the basement right now. I'm cleaning out my room, trying to fix it and rearrange stuff. Good for you. No beer, man. You know, I know DC Reacts drinks beer on his podcast or on his live streams. I'm just drinking a Pepsi. So no, if Pepsi sees us, please sponsor me. I'd love to be sponsored. Roman says my friend made an ASMR and then screamed at the end. That's funny. I got 14. My brother and I mostly likely share. Oh yeah, 14 Pops. Yeah, didn't you say you have like Vegeta and Gohan, right? Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm just like trying to. The water's really bland, getting bland in my mouth. So I need like something sweet so I can stay awake. Roman says he has a Pikachu and SpongeBob. Yeah, SpongeBob Pops are pretty cool. They had like some Christmas ones that dropped. I really wanted the SpongeBob Pop that he did the imagination. You know, so when his hands are like spreading and then there's the rainbow in between his hands. I wanted that. I wanted that Funko Pop. Or like if they have a handsome Squidward Funko Pop, I'll probably buy that. They dropped Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy during New York Comic Con, or like during the New York Comic Con Funko Pop drop because there was no New York Comic Con this year. But usually they have like specialties for the conventions, and Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy were the specials for New York Comic Con. Let's see here. Let's move on to this next topic here. Let's see. I talked about some of my favorite shows, what I've had. I guess I could talk about this. So like I've said earlier in this episode, I talked about putting Liberty Comics on hold. I also put going to Taekwondo on hold as well. For those of you who follow this podcast and just follow my Instagram, I've been taking Taekwondo for the past, or retaking it for the past couple of months. And I actually had to call, or Master Chung called me yesterday, and just due to personal reasons at home, I'm not really in the mindset to go back and train or to go back and learn. So I am going to be putting Taekwondo back on hold. It sucks though because I honestly did want to go back. I had a back injury prior to before Thanksgiving, and then COVID happened at the dojan, and then they had to close down because of the whole government shit that happened. They had to close down shops or stuff like that again. And then now that they're opening up again, I'm not really in the mindset to go due to personal reasons. But yeah, hopefully I can get back into Taekwondo. I know I just recently got my orange and white belt too. I have been practicing a little bit at home, but it's different at home practicing the Taekwondo techniques. I don't really have enough space in my house to do all the movements and stuff. But I have been trying to get back into boxing again. So I am hitting the heavy bag or the teardrop bag too. So I really want to try to get back into somewhat of a healthier state, because after getting struck with COVID, man, that shit was no joke. My COVID experience was like I was sore. I had no taste. What else? I mean, I have a really severe cough, but like the cough that I have now, it's not really. I don't think it's COVID related because I tested negative. I don't. I think it's probably just dry in my house. But I was just really exhausted when I got struck with COVID because there was one day like I had it really bad for a week, and then I kicked it. I kicked it within that week. But then like my second or third day of having COVID, I was super sore. I stayed in bed all day, and I did not want to get out. I barely ate. I think within that week of just having COVID and just being and recovering from COVID, that's what helped me lose weight. But I dropped like 15 pounds from just having COVID to recovering from COVID to now. And even though I'm better, I'm not exposed to it anymore. I just want to stay more safe. So I don't really go out as much anymore. That's why you see me more on social media and more on my podcast. Excuse me. Let's see here. You were gonna ask, yeah. So I know some of you guys were pretty interested in the whole Taekwondo thing. Taekwondo has been like I said, I wish if I was in the mindset to go back, I would, but I just hopefully when I do go back, it'll be 100%, and I really want to try to at least advance more in at Tiger Chung's martial arts dojon there. Roman says, when I was 6 years old, me and my cousin went to karate, and I think he kicked the pillow too hard. You got to be careful, Roman. Even though it's traditional arts, you want to stay as safe as possible. You don't want to hurt each other. Just practice your forms or your kata. I think that's what karate does, kata, or your forms, your techniques. You don't want to really hurt each other. You want to stay safe. And if you do want to spar, definitely wear gear. He never went back there. And then Alex says he tested negative too. Yeah, Alex, you got to stay safe, bro. It's tough times. Even at the end of this year, people still have COVID, and I don't I don't want to stay on this topic too long, but like it's just some people don't take it seriously. Some people think it's just like the flu or pneumonia, but a lot of the symptoms that COVID causes is definitely like more affected by other things too. So from what I can say is just stay safe. I don't want to stay on this topic too long. Let's see here. What else is on my list to talk about? So plans for 2021. I have my guests all set for the month of January already. I have four guests. Again, I have 4 new guests three new guests, and no, let me reword that. I have 4 episodes. Two episodes are with 2 new guests. One episode is with a returning guest or someone that was on a live stream that I had. If you guys watched the live streams at Otaku Detroit, there was a guest on there that is going to be back on the podcast for an actual episode. And then, like I said, the episode in 2.5 weeks or so when Lemon Dome was on earlier, Lemon Dome, who is my older cousin, him and like 2 other cousins that they're going to jump back on the podcast. So that's why I called it the Spoiler Force Fancast. So so that'll be January 15th ish, that weekend. So I have episodes. I'll be going live on January 8th, and then January 15th, January 22nd, and then January 30th. All live episodes next month. And then again, audio and edited video formats will be dropped by Sunday. I was going to ask, am I still going to get T-Bone? I asked T-Bone. We weren't able to get a scheduled right or like a date settled. So I didn't want to bombard him. I know he's been busy with music and Get Heavy Records too, and he does his own thing. So hopefully, if he watches this or listens to the episode, hopefully, if he hears it, hopefully I can try to get him back on the podcast. But I haven't reached out to him since like March. going to bed. Okay, see you, Roman. Thank you for jumping on. And again, thank you to Kelly too. Hopefully, you guys stay healthy, stay safe. Yeah, and I really, I really wanted him to be on the podcast. I thought it would be cool to have him on to talk about his music and having like working with his brother Vu Peter and stuff like that too. But we just weren't able to find a scheduled time. So just, I mean, it's not a big deal. What was I talking about? 2021 plans. So yeah, so the month of January is pretty much booked with guests. Again, live episodes. I'm not gonna drop. I was like debating about this too. I don't think I'll be dropping monthly announcements anymore. Now that I've been doing this live stream stuff or like live event stuff, I think I'm probably just gonna do weekly announcements for guests now for 2021. And so probably next Monday or Tuesday, you'll see the next guest for Spoiler Force podcast, like the first 2021 guest. And then, it'll be like that for the month of January. And if you guys like it like that, then I'll keep it like that. But if you guys like the monthly announcements, just email me at rickyvang92@gmail.com, or you can message me on Facebook or Instagram. Here's my email here if you guys want to stay in contact with me about the podcast here. Let me just highlight that. So that's my podcast my podcast email. If you guys want to just reach out or you talk or like give me ideas and stuff like that. Like I'd really love to have your guys' feedback. So definitely please send emails, contact me on Spoiler Force on Facebook or on Instagram, or definitely comment on the YouTube channel too. So if you guys watch this stuff on YouTube, definitely comment your ideas or critiques or guest recommendations or anything like that. Which returning guest do I want back? Oh, great question, Alex. Returning guest, or we're like, let's see, or would like to see on the podcast again. I haven't really thought about it. I know for sure I'd really love to have Final Fantasy Union back on. The guests from the UK, Daryl and Lauren. I'd love to have them back on the podcast. Benjamin Nuss, the piano player from Germany, he's a part of the Final Fantasy Distant Worlds and the a new world Final Fantasy music. He's been arranging his own music for the past year now. It was really cool to talk to him. So hopefully I can try to get him back on through video chat. And then another guest, probably Rachta Lynn. I love talking to Rachta. I even watch her live streams on Twitch, and she's been pretty familiar with me too. So we do talk from time to time. We're not like friends or anything, but she is pretty cool to speak with. So hopefully I would really love to have Rachta back on the podcast, because I think that now that I have like an established way of recording, doing video and audio, I think having a video podcast with her would be much better than the last time. So I'd love to have her back on the podcast for sure. And then maybe I guess I can name one more. Probably Whitney. Whitney Yang was a great guest, so I would love to have her back on the podcast too, because she was really open to talk about like almost anything, and she even came up with like her own questions and stuff too. So she was really engaging, which is why I liked having her on the podcast. And plus, I owe it to myself to to do another episode with her without deleting the video portion. Because if you go back and listen to that episode with Whitney, it was just strictly audio. Because my dumbass deleted the video portion and got it, and somehow it just got deleted and it was gone. So I have to redo that with her. Too. So yeah. Let's see. I don't know if I have any other plans for 2021. I mean, besides working with the Epic Shows Network, the Epic Shows Podcast Network, that's pretty much it. 2021, I'm playing it by ear, because I don't want to go like full blast next year. I want to take my time, really just try to see where I stand with my content. I know that with Spoiler Force, I was really trying to do more pop culture stuff. But now with the guests that I'm getting like such a variety of different people. I don't know if I will be doing a lot of pop culture content next year. And if I do, then I do. But then, like, I think with what I'm doing, I really enjoy just talking to people of like different backgrounds and getting different perspectives and learning from what they're doing. And now recently, I'm talking to more podcasters now on my podcast. So I really don't know. I don't want to rush into things for 2021. Um, I saw you on Platinum Podcast. Yes, Platinum Podcast was a great episode. Shout out to Austin. He's an up and coming podcaster and content creator. He has great stuff on his podcast. I think he's trying to be more consistent. But yeah, it was fun being on Platinum Podcast, man. Austin has something going for him. I really like his ambition, and I really like what he's trying to do for his podcast. I just hope that more people listen to his stuff. And if you guys are listening, go subscribe to Platinum Podcast, man, because he's almost at 100 subscribers. I think he's maybe like 1 or 2 people away. So definitely go support him. I did listen to it. Whitney sounded like she had a lot of energy talking. Yes, Whitney was very energetic. Like I said, I lost that video portion of the podcast. If I had that, you guys would have seen how like she was interacting with me and when we were talking about like her experiences. But yeah, I really need to redo or do another episode with her sometime soon next year. Now that I'm like on this topic of guests and stuff, like what if you guys are still watching or listening, or even if you guys listen to this after the live stream, what kind of guests do you guys want me to have on the podcast? Like who or what kind of guests? Like what background or genre, I guess. Are there specific guests that you guys want me to have on the podcast, or do you guys like who I'm pulling? I need to know some of this feedback because it's really hard to try to gauge what fans want if I get when I don't have any feedback. It's tough because I'm just like doing things that I like, and I still want to, but I want to engage with my fans because I don't know if you guys are fully listening or just checking out the stuff. If I can get some engagement or some feedback here, it'd be great for me to kind of just learn and to evolve. So definitely let me know if you guys have any guest recommendations, or even write down your critiques. Like what don't you like of Spoiler Force podcast? Not everything has to be a good thing. If there's things that I do on this podcast, excuse me, that you guys don't like, let me know. Maybe you guys don't like the audio. Maybe you guys don't like the fact that I talk too much, or if I speak too fast or something like that, just little things like that, because I need to know so that I can improve. And if I don't know that stuff, then I don't really like it either, because it makes it seem like people are just being nice to me for the fact that they're being nice to me. I need like real criticism. I mean, not insulting criticism, but like constructive criticism. So definitely leave your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to know what you guys think. What can I improve on? What should I do to make this podcast better? If I do make improvements, would you guys support Spoiler Force podcast on a crowdfunding site like Patreon, or even OnlyFans? If I do an OnlyFans for Spoiler Force, would you guys support the content? Because I would put like unedited episodes up there. Unreleased. I have like I think I have 1 or 2 unreleased episodes that I recorded that I didn't put out. Just exclusive stuff. Like nothing too crazy, because people have like such a bad stigma for OnlyFans. But right now, I think that's like the best place to do crowdfunding. Patreon has really like controlled, strict rules, so I don't know if I want to go to Patreon, but. Again, if I do something like that, would you guys support it? Let me know in the comments, whether you're watching it live or listening to it later, on whether if it's audio or on YouTube. So I've been working on some new introductions. I think I mentioned that already, but I've been working on some new intros and ads for the podcast. So I'm going to be recording that sometime this weekend, hopefully maybe Friday night or something. I need to really get that done. And it's going to be fun, man. Again, with FlowGasm letting me use one of his tracks for 2021, it's going to be a much different vibe than using LP's music. So again, I got to work with Hmong artists too, man. Like it's going to be fun. changing it up here. And I was thinking about like changing up my podcast logo, like just the thumbnail, like you see in the corner here of the live stream. I was thinking about changing that, but I'm probably just gonna leave it as is because I don't want to change it every year. Just too much of a hassle to pay artists and stuff like that. But I'm definitely again planning to do more updates with like the music and changing up sponsors and stuff like that. And yeah, and that's another goal of mine too. I really want to try to get sponsors for Spoiler Force, and not just be an affiliate, because affiliates you have to put in the work so you get paid. But then if you get sponsored, that means they're paying you to advertise for the company or whoever is sponsoring you for it. So I really want to try to get sponsors for Spoiler Force, but again, the only way I can improve is if you guys help engage and if you guys help let me know how to improve. But we can save that for next year because this is the last episode for 2020, and I do want to leave things on a positive note here. I guess going back to movies, this thought just came back to my head here. I watched the Demon Slayer Infinity Train or the Mugen Train movie bootlegged, and that was actually a great movie. And it's hard to decide between that and My Hero Academia because this year they dropped two great anime movies like that, Heroes Rising and the Demon Slayer movie, two different studios. But hold on, let me turn off my sound on the phone here. Oh shit. Hold on here. Yeah. But but Demon Slayer, man, what a phenomenal movie. I can't wait to watch that in theaters if theaters ever opens up again. But watching it bootlegged was pretty cool. The quality was pretty good. And yeah, that movie was awesome, and the phrase that I'm going to be using for next year, set your heart ablaze. That's actually a quote by Kyojuro Rengoku, who's one of the characters in Demon Slayer, the Flame Hashira, or the Flame Pillar. He was one of my favorite characters in Demon Slayer, and I really loved that quote from him. And especially watching that movie, I'm probably going to use that as my new 2021 mantra or like quote, so that I can just keep myself positive and keep myself motivated. Again, the quote is "Set your heart ablaze." You want to fire up your heart and grit your teeth and move on forward, regardless of who's in front of you. So that's something that I'm really inspired by. Alex says, "I'm not really into the comic books, but anime is fine. I don't know anybody that's into that kind of stuff because if I did, I would recommend them to you." Yeah, I mean, like it doesn't have to be pop culture stuff, but like if you have any guest recommendations, like if there's like someone you like to see me talk to, like whether if it's pop culture or music or stuff like that, let me know. I know you mentioned you wanted me to try to reach out to Sudden Rush. Honestly, I have not yet. I mean, I want to try to get Pat on the podcast, but I don't know. I'll probably message her on Facebook or try to email them. I don't know if she's willing to do it or not. There was one other podcast that had one of her brothers on, so that was pretty cool. But I honestly would prefer to talk to Pat because she's the front woman of Sudden Rush. I haven't watched any movies, not that I know of. Yeah, Alex, it's pretty tough to watch movies during this time of COVID. You just have to, unless you watch it digitally or streamed or buy it. And speaking of that too, Wonder Woman 84 was released on HBO. I talked about it a little bit already. And his name is Chin. Oh yeah. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, he was the band member that was on the podcast. But yeah, I was talking about Wonder Woman 84, and that movie was complete trash. It was not good. I don't know who thought Wonder Woman 84 was good. I did not like that movie at all. I mean, the whole Wish concept and just like how Cheetah came about to be. I only liked the fact that Wonder Woman looked great in that movie. So other than that, that movie was terrible. 2 thumbs down. He was on Hmong Talk. I think that's what it's called. Oh yeah, for Chinu from Sudden Rush. Yeah, I think that's the podcast he was on. I don't really I don't really listen to other to that podcast too much. I know what the host Shiso, is that his name, Shiso? He did reach out to me on Facebook just to like talk about like how I have my setup. I mean, I didn't say much to him, and I think I'm in talks of like collaborating with him and 2 Hmong boys. I don't know if I should be talking about this, but I'm talking about it anyway because they haven't released any content yet. But yeah, 2 Hmong boys reached out to me. If you guys don't know who that podcast is, they're just another Hmong podcast group. They talk about like Hmong men issues and stuff like that. So they reached out to me. One of their hosts reached out to me. So hopefully they're trying to do a collaboration sometime in January. I don't know when. They haven't really been keeping up with me. I told them that I'm pretty busy too. So hopefully we record on a good time. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind collaborating with them, but because I'm busy too next month, so I don't know if I have time to record with them unless they do it like on a different day or something. Because I like to do my live streams on Fridays, preferably on Fridays, so that I can have time on Saturday to edit and then upload on Sunday. Wonder Woman, never watched. Alex, you never watched Wonder Woman either, bro. The first one was good. I'm not gonna lie. The first Wonder Woman was good. Because you got the backstory, you got to learn who Diana was, you got to see her Amazonian background and her powers and stuff like that. Part 2 was just a freaking fan service, man. It was terrible. I did not enjoy it. I mean, the fight scenes were okay, but like the whole plot was just so boring. Like the wish stuff, and them having the invisible jet just to service the fans. Again, like I said, the only good thing about Wonder Woman was the fact that Gal Gadot looks great, and that's it. Other than that, it was boring. Some people say it's good, others it may be bad, but I never watched it. Yeah, I mean, it's up to you, Alex. Like it was okay. I mean, the first one I loved it. The first one I thought was great, and I loved her in Batman vs Superman. But Wonder Woman 84, I think it was just bad. It seems like a gimmick that they use because of nostalgia for the 80s. I really wish that they kind of just waited for her to make a movie so that it's in modern times again, like with Superman, Henry Cavill, and or like, because I don't know what Warner Brothers is doing with DC anymore, man. Because they have the new Batman movie coming out, they have a Flash script that's out that Flash is going to go through time and stuff like that. Apparently, the Flash is going to fix the timeline for their movies. I think if Warner Brothers just took their time making their story from Man of Steel to Batman vs Superman to Justice League, it would have been great. But they were so busy competing with Marvel when Marvel was on top. Like it was terrible. They should have never done that. Wonder Woman was good cheese. The second Wonder Woman was bad cheese. No, I think the first Wonder Woman was awesome. I mean, there was like the whole no man's land scene when she's walking like a model. I mean, that some people think that's kind of cringy, but I really like that scene. It just showed you how great Wonder Woman was as a character, and especially not like, especially just being a woman character, like a female character, and seeing how great she is, because like that's what made the first part so good, was that it wasn't about flexing or showcasing about woman or like a female power or stuff like that, like how Captain Marvel was doing it. They concentrated on the fact that Wonder Woman was just a straight up hero. It wasn't it didn't matter if she was a woman. It was her morals, her ideas, the why of like why she was fighting. Captain Marvel on the other hand was just fan servicing. They were just saying like, fight like a girl kind of thing. And I'm probably going to get heat for this, but they were just really fan servicing the they were fan servicing a lot of people because of with Captain Marvel. And if, I'm probably gonna get so much heat for that. Whoever's listening is probably gonna get pissed because I said that. But yeah, I mean that's what made Wonder Woman, the first one, so great, because it wasn't the fact that they were concentrating on the idea that she was a woman. It was because she was a hero. Versus Captain Marvel, again, like I said, they concentrated on the fact that she was a female hero instead of just a hero. And then they also just made her storyline just crazy, stupid, because they were feeding off the 90s. And then, it just didn't make sense, because like if she was the first hero, then it just makes all like the stuff beforehand, like, just kind of crumbles a little bit. But it's Disney. They have money, so they can do whatever they want. But what else was I going to talk about? I mean, again, like the 2021 plans, there isn't much. So I think let me look at my list here. I'm sorry, folks. I have a list of topics on my phone here. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it. I covered most of. Oh, I still have 2 more topics here. Okay. So I'm pretty close to 100 episodes. Oh, wait, Alex says I haven't watched Captain. Nah, don't watch Captain Marvel, bro. I wish, I wish they did. I wish they introduced Captain Marvel in Endgame, and then after Endgame, they gave her solo movie. That would have been so much better, instead of just introducing her for the sake of Endgame. But anyways, excuse me. Like I was saying, excuse me again. I'm almost at 100 episodes, which is pretty wild for myself, because I never would have thought that I'd get close to 100 episodes. I'm really shooting for the anniversary date to drop the 100th episode, which is May 2nd. And this year, if that falls on a Sunday, or next year, that falls on a Sunday. And for the guest for the 100th episode, I really want to get Rob Paulsen. Excuse me. Rob Paulsen is a voice actor of, for Carl Weezer of Jimmy Neutron, Yakko from Animaniacs, Pinky from Pinky and the Brain, Snowball from Rick and Morty, the dog that Morty had. He is such a great voice actor. And if you have not heard yet or know yet, he's the reason why I started podcasting. And if I can get Rob Paulsen on my podcast for the 100th episode, that would be such a full circle kind of thing. I'm really trying to get him on. I've sent him 2 emails already to his team. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Let me get a drink of water here. I've sent his team 2 emails already. I'm really trying my best to get this guy in the podcast, because again, he's inspired me so much. I met him back in 2019 at Michigan Comic Convention. I told him how I felt already, but he meets so many fans that say the same thing to him too. So he's heard a lot of the same stories. But yeah, that's a goal of mine that I really want on my podcast. Just the 100th episode, have Rob Paulsen, and move on from there. Earlier this year, I made a post or a video about having a potential guest from All Def Digital. They responded to me pretty quickly, but just due to budgeting, I was not able to afford their guest or the comedian that I wanted on the podcast. So hopefully sometime next year, I can try to get that guest back on or get that guest for the podcast. I guess I can just tell you guys now, since it's already the end of the year. I was really trying to get to hear more from All Def Digital. He's a stand-up comedian, social media personality, content creator, podcaster. He works with guys like Kev on Stage, Patrick Cloud, like that. I was really trying to get him on the podcast, and when I spoke to the team leader or the agent at All Def Digital, she was very nice. She responded quickly. She called me within hours of that email. It's just we couldn't come to terms on budgeting because I didn't have the funds for it. And I'm glad that I was honest with her about it, because she was really nice about putting me down or saying it's okay, next time we can try to work something out again. So I'm really happy that they were nice to me like that. But my goal is to try to get someone from All Def Digital on my podcast too, because All Def Digital has been such a huge inspiration to me. as a podcaster too. Seeing guys like Kev on stage, to hear more Patrick Cloud, and who else? Cleo Thomas and guys like that. And even Griffey got to collaborate with them, and even Timothy Delgado or Timothy Changtarasu, he got to even collaborate with Kev on stage on this podcast and mukbang and stuff like that. So like I really want to try to up my game and get more. Get more guests on that level, and hopefully that can be something that can happen next year. Yeah, since I'm on this topic too, I guess I can say this. Some like if I can get any guests that I want on my podcast, definitely my number one guest I would love to have on my podcast is Rob Paulson, like I've said before. And if I can have him on my podcast sometime next year, that'll be like a full circle thing for me. But besides Rob Paulson, Timothy Delgado or Changtarasu is one that I would love to try to get on my podcast. I don't know how folks can get him on theirs. Like there's like this one podcast on Instagram that got him just to talk on Instagram Live. And I don't really consider that a podcast because you're just chatting on Instagram Live, and Instagram Live the format is way different. You're practically on your phone. But he was on there with some guests, so I was like, damn, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to see if I can reach out to him, and I have, but I'm pretty sure he gets tons of contacts every day, so he probably didn't even see it. Another guest that I would love to have on my podcast is Dumbfounded. He's a Korean battle rapper and a stand-up comic and writer and a podcaster too. His podcast Fun with Dumb is great, and I love his content. I love that he has so many like Asian inspired not Asian inspired, but like Asian guests on his podcast, like to help inspire the Asian movement or culture. He really has a great format. What he's doing, I love that he's doing Twitch stuff too. Like he streams his podcast live on Twitch, so you get to see people commentate on his podcast, and that's pretty cool. I've been following him for quite a while. Excuse me, since high school, and that's someone I would love to have on the podcast too. I guess I can go up to 5 people. So again, number 1 was Rob Paulson. Number 2, Timothy Delgado. Number 3, Dumbfounded. Number 4. Someone I'd love to have on the podcast. Number 4, man, if I could even get this guy, freaking Joe Rogan. I mean, that's pushing it, but I would love to have Joe Rogan on the podcast. But that dude is too busy to be on anyone's podcast like mine. You got to have a great platform to get someone like him, and he barely features himself on anyone's podcast too. Most likely people ask him to be on his podcast. And then number 5, I'd probably say Kevin Smith. I would love to have Kevin Smith on my podcast. What's the ironic thing is that Kevin Smith was someone that I didn't even really like growing up. I wasn't a big fan of his content. It was Andrew that introduced me to his stuff, and then once I listened to his podcast, or once I watched his stuff and liked his content, I really got to see what kind of person he was. And then even like what really made me get drawn to his content was after he survived his heart attack, and how his life just changed and what he was doing after. He was just positive after everything that's happened. So if I can ever get someone like Kevin Smith on the podcast, that'd be so great too. And I already got Ming Chen, so hopefully I can try to get the other comic book men on my podcast too and talk to them. Let's see some comments here. Alex says, I knew you were going to say Timothy Delgado. I was never really into Dumbfounded, but I knew he was a battle rapper and artist. Yeah. I mean, his music, I like some of his music. I'm not going to say not all of it was great, but his more recent ones I like a lot. But now that he's transitioned into more of a podcaster and stand-up comic, I like his content now versus how it was back then. But if it wasn't for battle rap and if it wasn't for his music, he would have never gotten to where he's at right now. So much props to Dumbfounded. Any Hmong guests in mind, or do I want any Hmong guests back on the podcast? Let's see. I don't know. I never really thought about any other Hmong. I mean, I do have Hmong podcasters or like Hmong guests that are coming up on my podcast. but anyone that's in anyone that I'm trying to reach out to right now, no, because I've already reached out to them and I got them for next month. So I don't. I mean, besides Pat from Sudden Rush, I did reach out to Lord Chang, but I don't think he even saw my message. I reached out to Max Tao. He's a Hmong singer too. I don't think he saw my message either. Shang Li left me on red, so I don't think I'll be getting him on the podcast anytime soon. I try to get TL. He's a local Hmong Michigan rapper. Works with LP and Baymong Productions. I tried getting TL on my podcast too, but during that time, I think he was having his kid, so he's been pretty busy with his own personal life, and I don't even know when he's going to drop any new music. But I tried getting him on the podcast too. I don't know. I don't think he responded. Who else do I want on my try to reach out to? There was that one Generation Boys, they're pretty young. They're like a young Hmong boy band group. Generation Boys. They were recommended to me by the guest Annie that I had on the podcast. Yeah, Generation Boys. I tried reaching out to them. We could never get something scheduled. I think there was like 3 members in their group, but we could never get, again, like the same situation with T-Bone. We weren't able to get anything scheduled because of just scheduling conflicts. But now that you bring that up, Alex, or now that you bring up this topic, Alex, one guest that I would love to have is one guest that I'd love to have on my podcast is that really young K-pop Hmong group, the All Nighters, the boys that are being like trained by KLS. If I can get All Nighters on my podcast, that'd be pretty cool. I don't know, because it'd be weird to just get one of them. I'd have to try to get all of them on the podcast, but I don't know how I'm going to do that through video chat, because they might just all be in the same room, or they might all be on separate screens. I don't know how that's going to work. And again, they're pretty young, so I don't know. I think they're probably still going to school. I mean, they look like they're still in high school. So definitely, I want to try to get All Nighters on the podcast. I like their music a lot. I like their new style. I think they're really just like more modern, up to date. And they do like the Monglish stuff too. And before, yeah, I did reach out to Art Lee not last year. Maybe last year. I think I did try to reach out to him last year. I don't remember. It's been a while, because he was one of the first people that I reached out to, because I actually know him through his brother Andrew, which is the same Andrew that's been on the podcast, on my podcast. I don't know him personally like that, but I do see him around. I think he's reached out to me quite a few times, but when he, again, just all scheduling conflicts. When he reaches out to me, I'm busy, and when I reach out to him, he's busy. So it's hard. It's getting a bit harder now to reach out to certain guests because when the guests that are free, when they want to book the episode with me, I already have those spots filled, so it's hard. And I'm always reaching out to different people. I don't know whenever guest responds back to me. I'm always constantly checking my emails or my messages. I'm always reaching out to people and stuff like that. So it's pretty difficult, especially, again, like I said, I do this on my own, and it is hard to get certain guests from time to time. Yeah, it's how everyone's working. Yeah, exactly. I'm glad that, even though I have these scheduling conflicts with the guests that I reached out to, I'm glad that they understand. I'm glad that they understand the reason behind it. Why I sometimes turn people down, or why I can't book them too. And I was going to talk about another guest that I wanted to have on the podcast. Damn, I lost my train of thought. There was another person that I wanted to have on my podcast. That was, I believe they're like a Hmong artist too. Oh, Yasmin's sister, Claire. If you guys don't know who she is, she's like a she does like mukbangs and videos of Yasmin and stuff like that. I reached out to her like a few months ago, but she was moving to Minnesota. So I don't know. I don't know if she's gonna ever reach back out to me, but I did reach out to her to see if she'd jump on the podcast, and I was honestly just surprised that she even responded back. So if I can get her on the podcast, that'd be pretty cool. You know, I know that Yasmin is probably going to be a difficult one to get. You know, she has like over 120,000 followers. So hopefully, if they do see this, hopefully they can try to work something out. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this topic here. I'm close to, wow, holy crap, I'm almost at 2 hours now. I have one more topic that I want to talk about before I officially wrap things up here. If you don't know this, I don't think I've ever brought this up on the podcast, but like I've said earlier in this episode, so Van Brooks, holy shit, you're watching the stream. Shout out to Van Brooks, man. He's been on the episode 3 times, and his recent episode 3-peat, definitely check it out. Moving to MN, I may have to reach out to her myself. Dude, do it, man. I know, like, if you can get her on your podcast too, I know she's into fitness, so definitely reach out to her. But yeah, I think this last topic I want to talk about here, let me just get some water. This last topic that I want to talk about before I wrap things up here, it's going to be a little bit not down. Holy crap, my hair looks terrible. But it's not, I don't want to be like a Debbie Downer, but like this last topic I want to talk about, I've been waiting to just, I waited to hold off to talk about this topic on the podcast because I did not know if I should bring it up when I was doing it. But back in late August of this year, I decided to go to therapy, just like not physical therapy, but like counseling, if you will. I decided to go to counseling to talk to a counselor about my issues, and just, I guess, my outlook on life and stuff like that. I've been battling anxiety, slight depression and stuff like that, and mental illness for quite a while since I was in high school. And I guess I never really got to talk about this stuff to anyone besides my counselor of this year. Like, I don't even talk to my folks about these kind of issues. And so I didn't want to be that kind of person where I keep saying that, you know, people should go to therapy and I don't go. So I decided to book a counselor. I think overall I've had 8 sessions with her. I just ended my last session with her a few weeks with Dr. Harrison a few weeks ago. As of right now, I'm doing much better. But at that time, back in August, I decided to go to therapy to talk about, again, my life, my outlook on life, and just try to find reasons why I felt some type of way about like certain things, or like how I reacted to people or topics and stuff like that, and like why I would get triggered so quickly or snap at people so quickly. And it's just like it turned out to be like a bunch of built up emotions from adolescence, from middle school to even from like childhood to elementary to middle school to high school. Like, it was just years of just pent up emotion and insecurities and stress and all that nonsense. And talking about it now as an adult with Dr. Harrison and to my therapist, it was really excuse me, my God, hold on. I'm so sorry. It has to be like this last topic where I start coughing like crazy. But I decided to just try to figure out what was the reason why. And it turns out, like, she told me that a lot of these insecurities and a lot of these issues that I had with mental health came from values. And it wasn't that I was depressed. Like, I wasn't like suicidal or anything. And if anyone is suicidal, please call these suicidal help hotlines so that you can get help. But I wasn't suicidal or anything, but it's just like I did not know where to go, like from here. Like, I've had that issue pretty much from high school till now. And my therapist was telling me, like, what are your values? Maybe that's what's holding you back, because um, like it's a bit of fear, but it was also just like not knowing what was important in my life to move on or to move forward in my life, and going to therapy about that, and finally just being able to unravel these layers of emotions and layers of just self, like, doubt and guilt and anxiety and stuff like that. It really made me kind of just discover, like, who I was. And now now after these 8 sessions that I've had with her, for 2021, I really want to try to find out, what do I really value. I've gone through years of just being stagnant, going from job to job, working a typical 9 to 5, finding passions here and there and then never completing them. And now with podcasting, this has been a passion of mine for quite some time. And hopefully I can continue on with this passion project. Excuse me. And now that there's, I guess, some value in what I'm doing, hopefully that I can try to find out what I really want to do in my life. And I think if anyone feels that way, you should definitely speak with someone professionally to find out what those emotions are. Because people use, like, I told my counselor that I didn't want to be that kind of person where you just go to therapy to say that you went to therapy either. People use mental health as a scapegoat, or like a way to catch clout. Like, I go to therapy because of this and this and this, but they don't change as a person. And I think for me, when I went, I actually felt like I was changing. I've learned to work things out mentally, and to just really take things more slowly, and to really just observe and to analyze things more. And so, now for 2021, again, with my podcast goals for 2021, for myself, I really just want to try to find out what my core values are, find out what's important to me, chase those goals instead of trying to please everyone else and trying to meet standards of other people, and set my own standards. So, for anyone who is or was in that shoes, or is in those shoes right now, definitely seek that kind of therapeutic help. Reach out to people you trust. Know that you're not alone in this. And it's, talking about this was something that again, like I said, was really difficult to bring up. And so I just waited. I wanted to wait till the end of the year to talk about it, since I haven't gone back to therapy for like 2 weeks now. Excuse me. And but yeah, again, my goals for another goal for next year, again, is just to find core values, find what's important to me, and to really just work on that. And hopefully that once I get through that, I can move on move on to the next step as an adult. It really sucks when you're stuck with like these stigmas in an Asian community, especially. I don't want to bring down the Hmong community, but these superstitious or these super standards of the Hmong community being pressed upon you as a young adult, or like even teenagers, being pressed upon this, and just trying to do things for yourself. I know that a lot. That applies to a lot of Hmong folks who grew up in the Hmong community, doing things that were making other people happy instead versus yourself. So definitely, I want to kind of just express that on this episode too. And I'm really glad that I was able to go to therapy and to talk about these issues and unravel the layers of just years of pent up stress and anger. So, but yeah, I'm really glad that I went. So for next year, I definitely want to set myself to new standards. And like I've said earlier, my new mantra for 2021 is to set my heart ablaze. To the quote by Rengoku in Demon Slayer, to set my heart ablaze, grit my teeth, press on forward, and without hesitation and just keep going. So I mean, it's similar to Go Beyond Plus Ultra, but like the way how Ren Goku talks about this quote in Demon Slayer, it just hits home for me. And so like I said, Set Your Heart Ablaze and anime is great too. So thank you guys for tuning in. I know I jumped around a lot in this episode to different tangents and different topics, but thank you to everyone who's engaged. Thank you to everyone who's followed the podcast and like, shared, subscribe. If you like this final episode of 2020, definitely like, share, and subscribe. If you missed the live stream, you can watch this on Sundays on audio and on video on YouTube. I'm sorry. I probably won't edit this. I want to keep this raw and just probably edit a little bit of the beginning. But again, I'm going to apologize for coughing so much, but because I've been talking so much. I hope you guys can, look past that, but definitely thank you to everyone. I'm going to read these last few comments here before I officially wrap things up. Van Brook says, extremely proud of you for taking the steps to improve your mental health and pushing towards new endeavors. Thank you, Van Brooks. You're one of the few that help inspire me to be better and for my health, man. Like not just physically, but mentally, because I know you've gone through a lot of stuff too. Alex says, bros, I don't like talking about emotions too, but there are times where I should talk to somebody, but feel like there are things that are stopping me, but I can't find out what it is. Alex also says, bro, I'm happy for you that you're doing that. You found your values and found yourself, because I feel like I need to do that too. Alex, like I said, there's nothing wrong with going to therapy for the right reasons. Like I've said, there's people that do it just for clout, and I wanted to do it for myself. And I even told my therapist that too. I didn't want to be that kind of person to just say I went to therapy because I went to it. And that's why I'm talking about my experience on this podcast episode, because I want people to know that it does help. Talking about your feelings does help, and especially as men, the stigma behind that makes us seem kind of like weak. It's not. It is not a weak thing. I've learned that the more you talk about your emotions, or the more you kind of express yourself more, you definitely get to see how and why you react or engage in that kind of way. I mean, sometimes it's not great to help, or it's not great to talk to like family either, because there's always going to be some sort of bias, which is why I say go to therapy, because you're talking to someone that's an outside party. You're paying them, but then they're an outside party. That's their profession, and they're going to listen to you without critiquing or judging you and making you feel like you're a piece of crap. So if you have the funds for it, definitely try to go to therapy at least once or twice a month. And that's what I did. And again, I only did 8 sessions. I wish I did more, but hopefully I don't have to go back again in 2021. But if I do, then I'll probably talk more about it on my podcast next year. But again, you guys, thank you guys so much for being on this podcast journey with me, and for watching me talk for 2 hours now. And stay tuned for more episodes next year. Again, new music, new intros, new outros, new guests. And so I guess I'll make this to end things on a more happier note. The guests for next week, January 8th, is the Bamboo Ceiling. They are another Hmong podcast group, and it just ties in with the whole mental health topic that I was talking about. They also talk about Hmong men mental health too. And these guys are great dudes. I had a Zoom call with them a few weeks ago, and I can't wait to talk to these guys on the podcast and have them on. Hopefully my cough is gone by that time, but thank you guys, and stay tuned for that episode, January 8th. It'll be live on Facebook and Twitch. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Spoiler Force on every major podcasting platform. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitch, and on YouTube as well. And thank you guys, and have a great day. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow, like, share, subscribe, and rate Spoiler Force Podcast. If you have any guest recommendations, comments, questions, concerns, or criticism, you can email me at rickyvang92@gmail.com or message me online on any of my social media platforms. Want to listen to more pop culture themed podcasts? Then check out the Epic Sewers Podcast Network. There are shows like the Epic Tales from the Sewers, the Comic Watchers Show, What's in My Head Podcast, and Spoiler Force Podcast. Make sure to follow us each on social media and find us on any major podcasting platform. Thank you for the support.